Today on CFN Live, Lauren Murphy's inspirational story of faith and defying the odds. We'll talk to Lauren and her mom, Colleen, who wrote the book, Murphy's Don't Quit. And from the Archdiocese of Philadelphia, the executive director of St. Francis and St. Vincent Homes, an agency that's been helping children and teenagers for more than 165 years. And it's Monday, so Father Dave Dwyer is back answering another one of your questions about our faith. CFN Live starts now. Hello and welcome to CFN Live on this Monday, November 8th. I'm Colleen McVeigh.
And I'm Monsignor Jim Vaughn. Here's a look at what's trending now.
In the Pope's prayer video for November, the Holy Father is asking us to pray for those who suffer from depression or burnout. He invites everyone to, quote, be close to those who are exhausted, to those who are desperate, without hope. He says often we should just simply listen in silence. Well, supply chain issues are now affecting some Catholic cemeteries. An Oregon company that sells granite headstones says families used to wait 60 to 90 days for a stone. Well, now the wait is anywhere from 6 to 12 months. Monument companies are blaming the pandemic. First, factories are closed. Now shipping containers are sitting outside American ports and the prices have skyrocketed. The freight cost for a container used to be about $5,000. Now it's $25,000. And the flags are flying once again outside St. John the Baptist Diocesan High School on Long Island. In honor of Veterans Day, the school will be holding its second annual Salute to Service on Wednesday morning, with students and local community paying tribute to those who have served and continue to serve our country. Veterans Day Thursday. Wow.
That's great. My alma mater.
I know.
Where I graduated and where I was for 13 years, St. John the Baptist. Loved it there. You know, it was great.
It's a great school.
Yeah.
I pass that on my way to and from work every day. And to see those flags flying is really beautiful.
It's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
All of these container ships, by the way, holy moly, it's affecting everything from Parmesan cheese to, marble monuments. You know, it's incredible.
Everything.
Yeah.
You know, I know a couple that's waiting for a refrigerator that won't come until end of January.
Yeah,
so, your house is all ripped up.
They're saying 6 months, like a lot of things is really unbelievable right now. And I always think of this, I hate to sound like a grandpa, but I guess I'm old enough to be a grandpa. Like, greatest country in the world and we can't get a refrigerator. I don't know what's going on. It's a big issue, obviously.
We're just so used to instant, too,
of course,
to wait. I guess we have to be patient.
Yeah, patience seems to be the virtue.
All righty.
Be close to me because I'm tired. Pope said so.
I'll wake you up.
All right, thank you.
We'll have more after this short break.
Isn't it time we all spread the love? Find a better way to borrow at the institution that gives you the financing you need and gives back. Ocean Financial Federal Credit Union. Catholic values you can bank on.
Welcome back to CFN Live. Here's a look at news from around the world and in our nation. In world news, Sabina is the story about a Romanian couple and their admirable journey toward Christ and forgiveness during World War II. The Nazis that had previously tortured the population are now on the run after Romania switched sides during the war. Well, surprisingly, one family in Bucharest is willing to help them, Sabina and Richard Wurmbrand. More shockingly, Sabina's family had previously been killed by Nazi soldiers.
Come into our house all the time. You can't stay there.
And how do you know we can trust you?
I don't.
You know it's a death sentence if you shelter a German soldier.
I know.
Sabina is asked by German soldiers why she is helping them.
I will protect you from the Russians. I can't protect you from the wrath of God.
It's very impactful about learning how to love your enemies, which is so counterintuitive to the human race. But Richard and Sabina had come to this sort of highest level of Christian living where they were literally able to just pour Christ's love even into their worst enemies.
Throughout the movie, Sabina tells her story and mentions how she was not always a believer of Christ. Her husband, Richard, turned to Christianity after being on a desolate mountain to recover from tuberculosis. Sabina followed Richard, and they both committed themselves to serve Christ at any cost.
Because the tagline of this movie is that the heart of the gospel is forgiveness. And it's such a basic understanding of what the gospel is all about, and so difficult to really do. This movie gives us a couple of amazing examples of what we're called to do, because we've been forgiven ourselves. And when Sabina and Richard recognize that Christ had forgiven them, they can forgive others, and Christ can forgive others too, if they ask.
The true story is based on the couple who founded the Voice of the Martyrs, which supports Christians in need worldwide.
In our world today, there are many, many, many Christians who are under the arm of persecution. And the Voice of the Martyrs, founded by Richard and Sabina Wurmbrand, and when we get to know Richard and Sabina and see their story, it makes perfect sense why when they were finally exiled and made it to the United States, that they would found a ministry to remember others who were in the similar plights as they had been.
50 years after its founding, Sabina and Richard's legacy lives on as the Voice of the Martyrs continues to operate in more than 63 countries around the world, extending well beyond their humble origins in war-stricken Romania.
In Vatican news, Pope Francis celebrated Mass for cardinals and bishops who died in the past year. According to the Vatican, 17 cardinals and 191 bishops have died in the last 365 days. It was a moving ceremony for the Holy Father, as many of the departed, especially the cardinals, were once his close advisors. The Pope noted that some of them died because of the coronavirus in the middle of complicated situations that made their suffering worse.
Davanti alle difficoltà e ai problemi della vita è difficile avere pazienza e rimanere sereni. Serpeggia l'irritazione e spesso arriva lo sconforto. Può così capitare di essere fortemente tentati dal pessimismo e dalla rassegnazione.
The Pope said that God accompanies people in their suffering. He explained that God's role is that of a father, not of a genie who fixes problems.
Dio accompagna, soprattutto nel dolore, come un padre che fa crescere bene il figlio, standogli vicino nelle difficoltà senza sostituirsi a lui. E prima che sul nostro viso spunti il pianto, la commozione ha già arrossato gli occhi di Dio Padre. Lui piange prima, mi permetto di dire.
The Pope also urged the elderly not to give in to the bitterness caused by life's disappointments.
È brutto arrivare alla vecchiaia col cuore amaro, col cuore deluso, col cuore critico delle cose nuove. È molto duro.
Pope Francis said that suffering is an opportunity for inner purification that can help a person grow. Among those present was the Holy See's Secretary for Relations with States, Archbishop Paul Richard Gallagher, Cardinals Giuseppe Bertello and Gianfranco Ravasi, and the Pope's almoner, Cardinal Konrad Krajewski.
In other Vatican news, during his homily while celebrating Mass outside the medical school connected to Rome's Gemelli Hospital, Pope Francis said Christ is our comfort during illness and trial.
Tante incertezze si spaventano, in questo tempo di pandemia ci siamo scoperti più piccoli, più fragili. Nonostante tanti meravigliosi progressi, lo si vede anche in campo medico. Quante malattie rare e ignote. Quando trovo nelle udienze persone, soprattutto bambini, e domando, ma è una malattia rara? Quante ne sono oggi? Quanta fatica stare dietro alle patologie, alle strutture di cura, a una sanità che sia davvero come deve essere per tutti. Potremmo scoraggiarci. Per questo abbiamo bisogno di conforto. Il cuore di Gesù batte per noi, rimando sempre quelle parole: coraggio, coraggio, non avete paura, io sono qui. Coraggio sorella, coraggio fratello, non abbatterti. Il Signore tuo Dio è più grande dei tuoi mali, ti prende per mano e ti accarezza, ti è vicino, è compassionevole, è tenero. Egli è il tuo conforto.
Now back to Colleen.
Thank you, Monsignor. Well, now we head to the Gateway to the West. Joining us from St. Louis, Missouri, are Colleen and Lauren Murphy with an amazing and inspiring story of faith, love, hope, and boy, big family there. Colleen's book is Murphys Don't Quit, 5 Keys to Unlocking Hope When Life Seems Hopeless. Thank you both for joining us. I'm so happy to talk to you. This really is a wonderful book. And you are just sharing your family story, Lauren's story, from when it started, April 19th, 2013. Colleen, tell us about that date.
Sure. So that's that, I got that phone call that every parent dreads. And, I received a call from a Los Angeles detective. Lauren was on a business trip. She lived in New York at the time. And he let me know that Lauren had been hit by a car and was critically injured. Now, when I got that call in St. Louis, I had only, a few minutes to, figure out what to do with the other 6 kids and hop on the first plane I could out of Lambert Airport. And, life changed that day. We kind of like, that's the first chapter of my life. And April 19th became the second chapter. And, we just had to go into survival mode and, now what?
Yeah, as you went to California, you had no idea. The doctors weren't even giving Lauren much of a chance early on for survival, telling you these things. She wouldn't be able to walk or talk or feed herself. And Lauren, there you are, sitting there right now, proving all the doctors wrong.
Yeah, there
I'm here.
Double Skype's not always easy.
Yeah, no, I didn't want to cut her out.
So it's so great to see you sitting there because this is a difficult story. You've had to work so hard for all these years, and now, actually, Colleen, tell me about aphasia, because it is something that Lauren has, and I don't know if a lot of people know about it.
Yeah, no, a lot of people don't, because it's pretty isolating, and it's caused by damage to the brain, and it's very common with strokes. I think it's something like 67% of people that have had strokes have some sort of aphasia. Comes in many forms. Some people have problems finding words but can understand everything. Some people have problems with numbers. It's just basically a communication disorder. And Lauren's was caused not only because of damage to the brain, but that part of her brain was removed. One of her brain surgeries, they removed a large section of her left temporal lobe, which houses the language center. And Lauren was nonverbal for, she could say just like, good morning, how are you? But it was probably a good 2.5 years before we could actually have a conversation. I could figure out her needs and whether or not she was hungry or, whatever, but she couldn't say something specific. I had to order her food for her. It was really, really tough. And aphasia it's a beast. It's very slow moving. All of Lauren's language ability is based on rewiring of the brain. And, the fact that she was young was, the best thing going for her at the time. That's the only thing the doctors told us early on is she's young, we'll wait and see. That was the only positive they would give me at the early days.
Is it something that you continue to have to work with the rest of your life, Lauren?
Yeah,
I do.
Yeah, you do
I do speech therapy.
she's still
do speech therapy twice a week.
Yeah, we're 8 years out and we're still doing speech therapy, and she's at a point now where she's really doing well and pretty conversational, but, she's a real go-getter and it's never enough.
Go-getter.
So we just keep moving forward.
Lauren, as you sit there, nobody would even know that this is 4 brain surgeries later, and always the possibility of seizures. Colleen, if you can go back and just tell us the amazing support that you and your family and the support your kids. I mean, there were 6 other kids at home. All the support that everybody gave Lauren.
Oh yeah, so that is really what kept my husband and I going. And my kids went through Catholic schools their whole life, and as you know, that Catholic family network is huge and it knows no bounds. And we had prayer chains early on that every hour of every single day someone was praying for Lauren, which was crazy. And I didn't even know about any of this until months later because I was so busy, in LA with Lauren. But a week after Lauren's accident was my son's confirmation. Never in my wildest dreams would I have thought that was something I would have missed. But so many people showed up for him, and we're praying constantly for our whole family. And I couldn't have done what I did with Lauren, moving all over the country trying to help piece her back together if it wasn't for all the kind acts and love that people gave us for our other kids. They cheered extra loud at soccer games, and they made sure that somebody was there when my husband and I couldn't be there for them.
I loved early on when you first got to the hospital, and Lauren's coworker, who you really didn't know, and I don't even think knew Lauren very well, and she left you a rosary. A person who really didn't know you, but you got that rosary when you really needed it.
Yeah, and that was my lifeline. That's all I had, on those early days. That was the first thing I did every morning, and, then the first thing I did every afternoon and every evening. And, it really became my anchor.
Well, there was a beautiful, towards the end of the book, because, you talk about God. And I think in these times, a lot of people are like, okay, God, where are you? And you were constantly praying, God, fix her, fix her. And at the end, you just say, he was with you all along, every step of the way.
Yeah. So I knew even in those early days, when things were like so bleak, God was with me in that ICU room, and I knew that I wasn't alone. And, that old, I don't know if you remember that old church song, they still play it, You Are Near. Yes. Yahweh, I know you are near, standing always at my side. That was the song that was kind of the soundtrack to my life. And I heard that over and over and over again in that hospital room. And I knew he was there. And I knew that he was the one that was guiding me every step of the way. He's the one that helped me find every specialist. And, I was just, thank God I had my faith. I often wonder, what do people do in these situations without faith? I can't imagine.
Right. I love, also you had a doctor who told you, and I'm going to keep this, find the positive. Always find the positive, which you guys have been doing when there have been a lot of difficulties. Lauren now has a career, right? Well, first of all, you went back to running.
Yes.
Which is not just amazing. Like how many things have you been, you do 5Ks now. How many?
38.
38 5Ks.
Mm-hmm.
And so you're back to running again. And also tell me about deciding that, okay, and climbing. Wow.
Of course, I love to climb.
Yeah.
I know. I've tried and can't do it. So I'm like, wow, that video's great. So now you're a public speaker because you know what? Your story, you get in front of a crowd, and I think Colleen said, your mom said, you just connect with people. People just want to hear your story, and you connect with them. So you will be continuing now. So public speaking. Will you continue with this? I know you probably had to take a break during COVID, but is this starting up again?
Yeah.
Yes.
So especially with the book release, it's really kind of taken off again, which is nice because we do, Lauren does fine with Skype, but especially with that language barrier, she does so much better in person because she can really connect with people. And whenever we speak, there is always a line a mile long afterwards for people that want to talk to her or give her a hug. And, it's pretty cool as a mom to see that, because 8 years ago, we didn't even know she was going to survive, and here she is inspiring hundreds of people, with every speech.
And I know, Lauren, you have a website. If anybody wants any other information and to learn more about your story, what's your website?
MurphyStoneQuit.com. MurphyStoneQuit.com.
I love it. And I there's 5 keys, but I do love that key. Kindness, key number 3, kindness is free.
Kindness is free.
Everybody should remember that every minute of the day, every day.
For sure.
Thank you, Colleen. Thank you, Lauren, for sharing your story with us. Again, the book is Murphys Don't Quit.
Don't quit.
Yes. Thank you so much
Thank you for having us.
So I'm so glad you were here. More CFN Live after these messages.
Hi, I'm Marcus Scribner. The way we treat others affects us all, and that includes the way we treat animals. Cruel treatment of animals overseas led to the pandemic crisis, killing 1 million people worldwide. Environmental destruction, pollution, and poaching have killed endangered wild species. Our world today is a poorer place for people to live and inhumane for both people and animals. To fight back, American Humane created a 10-point plan to help animals, people, and the world we share. From ending the dog and cat meat trade to universal humane standards for farms, zoos, entertainment, and animal transport. Together we can make a difference. Join the fight for our animal friends. Go to AmericanHumane.org today and sign our new deal for animals. For a kinder, safer, and healthier world for all of us.
Welcome back to CFN Live. In world news, the pandemic has aggravated communication issues within some families and couples, and that's why psychologist Patricia Floor recommends using this time of loosened restrictions to think about how to restore relationships.
I think the main pillar to work on is spending quality time together and returning to those gestures of affection and care. To return to thinking about admiration in a couple, to once more set goals and start dreaming of futures for our relationships. Patricia Flor says that the pandemic has led to an increased number of cases of anxiety, stress, and depression in both adults and adolescents. In order to prevent these issues, I think it's essential to have clear norms and limits. In other words, I have to understand what my role is at home, within my family. And we have to understand that there are limits, and that there are consequences when those limits are exceeded. This applies to families and couples. Experts at the MoMA Family Care Center explain how to address one of the most difficult aspects of restoring relationships, which is speaking. Maria Hernandez says it's important to communicate one's feelings without resentment. Speak sincerely with that person, tell them how their actions made you feel, open up to that person, but don't generalize or be dismissive. Knowing when and how to express things is an art, but even the popes recommend working on it. Pope Francis, for example, says it's better to speak than to stay silent and slowly grow apart. It's what he calls the Cold War. Maria Hernandez explains that communicating requires understanding one's own feelings. It's a difficult skill to acquire, but she recommends meditating because it helps control one's mood.
In Vatican news, Pope Francis inaugurated the Vatican Apostolic Library's newest exhibition hall. He was welcomed by the librarian, Cardinal Jose Tolentino de Madanca.
Con umiltà possiamo dirle, Padre Santo, che cerchiamo di stare al passo della sua visione.
Its first exhibition is called Tutti, Umanità in Cammino. In English, Everyone, Humanity on its Way. It's inspired by the Pope's Fratelli Tutti encyclical and is the result of the collaboration between the Vatican Apostolic Library and contemporary artist Pietro Ruffo.
Appresso questa scommessa di realizzare un dialogo. La vita è arte dell'incontro. Le culture si ammallano quando diventano autoreferenziali, quando perdono la curiosità e l'apertura all'altro, quando escludono invece di integrare.
The exhibition focuses on maps, not only geographical maps, but allegorical maps representing humanity's trajectory through history and the person's ideals, discoveries, and convictions.
In questo cambiamento epocale che la pandemia ha accelerato, l'umanità ha bisogno di nuove mappe per scoprire il senso della fraternità, dell'amicizia sociale e del bene comune. La logica dei blocchi chiusi è sterile e piena di equivoci. Abbiamo bisogno di una nuova bellezza.
The Pope said that this new beauty must reflect the diversity of humanity, and that it is our responsibility to remember our roots as we come up with new maps for the future. The Pope spent some time admiring the exhibition. Artist Pietro Ruffo explained some of his own pieces to him.
Questi lavori che ho fatto, che sono carte sulle migrazioni, quindi una carta che è un elemento fisso, ma che invece viene attraversato dai popoli.
The Vatican Apostolic Library is usually only open to academics. Now the general public can access its history, art, and culture. The exhibition will be open until February 25th, 2022.
Now here's Paula's father, Dave Dwyer, from a pretty special place with this week's viewer question.
Today's question comes to us all the way from Pennsylvania. All the way? What do you mean? Well, because today, rather than being in front of some computer-generated backdrop, this is a real backdrop. I am in Rome today, and this question is about, let's say, the capital of our Catholic Church. So it comes from Janet in Dalesford, Pennsylvania, and she asks, Father Dave, I've always wondered, why is the Catholic Church based in Rome, not in Jerusalem, where Jesus founded it? Well, Janet, great question. And let me just say, it is an honor and a privilege to be here. I realize that there are so many Catholics throughout the course of their lives that have always longed to be here at St. Peter's Square in front of St. Peter's Basilica, the mother church of the Catholic Church, and don't ever get here. So whenever I'm here, I'm so grateful and so aware of what a privilege it is to be in this place. Okay, but Janet, why this place? Well, certainly the church initially was centered in Jerusalem. We see in the scriptures, in the Acts of the Apostles, we see that the leaders, including Peter, who we believe Jesus gave the keys, as in the power and authority to be his representative on earth. So in other words, the head of the church, we call him the vicar of Christ. A vicar is kind of like an ambassador for, a substitute for. So Peter himself, along with many of the initial apostles who were the first, let's say, the board of directors, the lead council of the church, they were centered in Jerusalem. So we see in the scriptures that when they had big decisions to make, they would gather together there. But right before Jesus ascended to the Father, some of his last words to his initial disciples were, "Go into all the world and make disciples of all nations." Well, at the time, Jerusalem certainly was important and it was part of the Roman Empire, but the capital of the known world was here, was Rome. Remember, it was called the Roman Empire for a good reason. So many of the early apostles, certainly including St. Paul and Peter himself, eventually made their way here because, again, Jesus' commission, go to all the known world. So if you can imagine, if you were starting up some nascent company in a small town somewhere in America and you got big enough, you might decide to either move your headquarters or at least open a home office in Washington, D.C. or New York City or Los Angeles, some big city like that. So that's what was going on here. And then only a couple of decades after the resurrection of Jesus, as the church is still just getting started, there was the destruction, really, of the city of Jerusalem. So imagine, again, a company being headquartered somewhere, a smaller town, and somebody has a satellite office in the big capital city, and then something happens like an earthquake or a natural disaster or whatever, and that smaller city is destroyed. Well, naturally, the bigger city with the satellite office is probably going to become the home office. Now, something else that added to that is that here in this city, and actually not too far from this very spot, is where one of the original apostles was martyred. So St. Peter, we believe, was killed for the faith somewhere very close to here. That obelisk that you see behind me marks roughly where it was. There's another spot a little farther off to the left of St. Peter's where we believe that obelisk originally stood when this was the Circus Maximus, when one of the things they did there was torture Christians and kill Christians, make martyrs. So Peter was killed here, and only as recently as a couple of decades ago, we have evidence of, in the basement of St. Peter's, in the crypt, Peter's actual bones. They did DNA testing. There's obviously no way to know 100% for sure it was St. Peter, but we believe that Peter is buried here, and that is the practice of the early church, that at the site of the death of the first martyrs and the first apostles, Christians would begin to gather for worship. Initially, it was just like meeting up in a graveyard for one of your relatives and having a prayer service there, but then they would build larger and larger and larger, and eventually the largest church there. So Rome, as head of the Roman Empire, at least for the first several centuries of Christianity, Rome became de facto the headquarters, the capital of the Catholic Church, particularly after the destruction of Jerusalem. And the church was able to grow, of course, with the flourishing of the Roman Empire. The church was able to grow, and this became essentially the seat of the government of the church and the spiritual center of the church as well, given that both Peter and Paul a few miles away, was martyred here. In fact, to this day, they still call the city of Rome the city of Peter and Paul. So that's why I'm standing here today, Janet, and not in Jerusalem. Now, Jerusalem is another great place to go, and if you have questions about that, maybe I'll go there and answer your questions. If you've got questions for me, just drop us an email at questions@cfntv.org, and maybe I'll answer yours next time on Ask Father Dave.
Now back to Colleen.
Thank you, Monsignor. For more than 165 years, St. Francis and St. Vincent Homes have been helping children and teenagers in the Archdiocese of Philadelphia. And joining us now from Philadelphia is Jim Logan, Executive Director of St. Francis and St. Vincent Homes. Thanks for joining us.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
165 years, that is a very long history. Can you give us a little bit, take us back on how all this began?
Yeah, sure. So in 1855, St. Vincent's opened, the School Sisters of Notre Dame opened St. Vincent's. And then from the 1850s until the 1880s, three other organizations, St. Joseph's Home, Catholic Home for Girls, and then St. Francis opened, all with different religious orders. The Sisters of St. Joseph, the De La Salle Christian Brothers, and the Holy Ghost Fathers opened those agencies. And for decades, they operated those programs, serving children from who were toddlers all the way up until 18 years of age. And over time, the program has shrunk to where we are today, which is St. Francis and St. Vincent Homes. And we serve mostly young people who are 13 to 18, but also have a small program for those who are 18 to 21.
Back when it first started, were they mainly orphanages? That's why you had so many youngsters in the programs?
Yeah, St. Vincent's was an orphanage all the way up until the early 2000s. St. Joseph and St. Francis, as the children got older, they would move from the orphanage to St. Joseph's, which was for boys ages about 6 to 12. And then when they hit 13, they would move up to St. Francis. So you have many people who spent their childhood really in the care of Catholic social services, from St. Vincent's all the way through St. Francis.
So now who are the youngsters coming to the Homes for Help?
They are youngsters who are identified by the counties, mostly Philadelphia County, in the child welfare system. So they come through the Family Court of Philadelphia, and most have an adjudication means that they've been through family court, an adjudication of dependency or delinquency, and we're identified as an agency that can help them. The young people are referred to us, and then we place them in one of our group homes.
The group homes, it's residential. The kids come there and they live at one of the homes. Right now, you anywhere from a little over 100 teenagers can live in the homes?
Yeah, we currently have about 82 young people. So we have a campus in Bensalem, Pennsylvania, and we have 4 boys group homes on that campus. So about 48 teenagers, again, ages about 13 to 18. We have a girls group home in Philadelphia, and there's 12 young ladies who are living there. We also have an independent living program, so apartments for 10 young adults ages 18 to 21. And then we also, in partnership with Bethany Christian Services, run a group home for unaccompanied refugee minors. So these are young people from Central America and from some places overseas in the Middle East and Africa who've been identified through the Federal Office for Refugee Resettlement, and we run a group home for those young people.
Is there an average time that some of these youngsters are staying in the homes? Do they stay for 1, 2, 3 years?
Yeah, there really is no average time. It's case by case. We have some young people who stay with us for anywhere from 2 weeks to a month, and we've had other young people who have spent 5, 6, 7 years with us. It really depends on what the issues are that brought them to our group home, and how things are proceeding and trying to deal with those concerns.
So in the home, they're getting a place to live, a safe place to live, but they're also getting an education, right?
Correct. We've run on our campus in Bensalem, we run a full middle school and high school. It is St. Catherine Drexel. St. Catherine Drexel's family donated some of the money that originally allowed St. Francis to open and operate, and St. Catherine Drexel and her sisters were involved from the beginning with St. Francis as a program. So the St. Catherine Drexel School is a middle school and a high school. Young people, if they earn enough credits, can graduate from St. Catherine Drexel. And we also work with the intermediate units of the counties where the young people come from. And depending on their needs, they may go out to the local public high school, to an approved private high school. Their education is really based on what their needs are, but we do have a school on campus for a certain number of our young people.
And helping some kids get that high school diploma who may not have gotten it if they didn't get your help.
Absolutely. Most of the young people, almost all the young people who come to us are well behind grade-wise and credit-wise. So coming to our program really accelerates their movement towards graduation. Absolutely.
So people live at the homes. You also offer clinical services, right? Inpatient and outpatient clinical services. Can you tell us more about that?
Sure. So we have a license to run our own mental health clinic. We do individual counseling, group counseling, family counseling. We don't actually have an inpatient mental health license, but we have connections with many of the other inpatient providers in the area. So if a young person is in need of inpatient help, we can make that referral and get that young person the services that they need. And oftentimes, if they move to one of those inpatient facilities, they will come back to St. Francis and continue to live with us. So while they're with us, they get great outpatient care from our therapists. And if they need the inpatient, they can go and come back.
Do you still, I read somewhere that you run a home too for young mothers and babies. Is that still in operation?
We did until about a year ago. And then that program, we had run a program for young mothers and young teen women who were pregnant for decades. And only in the last year has that program closed. So just recently.
Now, during COVID, a lot of places, donations were down. And I know you, like everybody else, needs monetary help to keep these operations going. How were donations during COVID, and is there a need for more?
Donations were wonderful. People were incredibly charitable during this time. We heard from a lot of people who donate to us on a regular basis, but also from a lot of people who had not donated previously. So we were incredibly grateful for all of their contributions. And certainly, we are very open and in need of continued donations to support the program and keep our operations running. And if people wish to donate, our website is www.sfsj.org. And when you go to the website, there is a button that you can push for donations, and we would be greatly appreciative.
Because you are helping so many youngsters really turn their lives around. Thank you so much for sharing with us.
Thank you very much for having me.
Thanks, Jim. Coming up next, more news from around the world and the nation.
Chiru has no choice. She and millions like her must walk miles every day for dirty water. But together, we can end their walk by providing clean water close by. Instead of spending hours walking to get water that makes them sick, girls can be in a classroom that expands their minds, and moms will gain back time to care for their families. Sons and daughters can grow up strong, finally free of sicknesses caused by dirty water. At World Vision, care about clean water runs deep. Deep enough to reach one new person with clean water every 10 seconds. Because every child, every person, everywhere deserves clean water and the chance to rise to their full potential. It's true. When you just add water, you change a life. Learn more at worldvision.org.
Welcome back to CFN Live. In world news, growing produce despite the disastrous effects of climate change in El Salvador, where the World Food Program is helping farmers to turn one of the driest strips of land into a green haven.
Aquí estamos en Calaveras, San José, arriba. Aquí estamos en el invernadero. Es un sistema donde adentro se cultiva con mejor calidad, porque al aire libre no es difícil cultivar hoy en día. Este invernadero es de 500 metros cuadrados. Sí, hay 14 surcos de 76 líneas, hay unas de 77, cubétalas.
Tiene casa de oro, casa de seda, pues sí que lo mantenemos todo, ¿sí? Donde sale la verdura y sale el tesoro, ya qué bonita historia, ¿sí? Lo que sale allí, vame, es para todo, vame, las verduritas, vame. Mire, comerse un pepino, un chile fresquito, no es lo mismo como que venga a Guatemala.
Lo que hacemos es traer las habas de la bodeguita donde tenemos el mini centro de acopio. Ya después de la corta, hacemos lo que es el proceso. Alamos el producto para el centro de acopio. Allá lo seleccionamos. Lo motiva a uno, pues, porque son productos que son de calidad que salen acá. Los jalamos para el carro y los vamos a vender productos. Siempre cuando hay pago, siempre se deja un ahorro para invertir en insumos, pues, como foliares o para combatir alguna plaga que caiga. Uno se alegra ver las plantas, el crecimiento, todos los procesos, y también que cuando hay cosecha, pues uno le lleva a la familia y esto ya no lo compra uno y aquí mismo lo lleva y lo consume uno. Alegre, pues, porque aquí este trabajo es motivador.
In national news, meet a couple who say their lives were transformed by their devotion to St. Joseph. Here, Renzo reflects on when he realized he needed a model of fatherhood and how he found it in St. Joseph.
My name is Renzo Ortega, and I'm a husband and father. My wife and I have been married since 2012, and we have 5 kids. Looking back now, St. Joseph has been there since the beginning of the foundation for our marriage. We actually went to the same elementary school together, and then going into my senior year of high school, we began dating. And then after she graduated from college, I proposed.
Our devotion to St. Joseph was always part of our relationship, but I wouldn't say that we became intentional about our consecration to St. Joseph until after our second son was born. A lot of things in our relationship came to a head. I think the excitement of being newlyweds was starting to wear off, and family life was really becoming a reality.
I was working in social work. My work was incredibly stressful. Like, my mind was at the office to the point that whenever I got home, I was still absent. Emotionally, I was absent. Mentally, I was absent.
He was very stressed. It was really difficult. So things started to fester and things got harder and harder. A lot of other things fell to the wayside. A lot of the intentionality of being a wife, and even like our home was just falling apart.
I wasn't sure what true masculinity, true fatherhood, how a husband should be. And I didn't have that example growing up. I didn't have that example from people around me, which really kind of left me trying to make it up as I went. I developed a hunger to find out what was not working right in my marriage, what was not working right as a father. And then that hunger really brought me to start reading St. John Paul's writings. Ultimately led me to his apostolic exhortation, Guardian of the Redeemer. And then I suddenly realized that the model that I had been missing was St. Joseph. It's really transformed our entire family. There's twice in the Gospels where Joseph is, talked to by an angel in a dream, and immediately after that he acts. And what I realized is that the action was what was missing in my relationship with Monica. I spoke a lot of things, but the action was never there. And then seeing St. Joseph, who was all action, made me realize that I needed to start moving. I needed to start showing her I loved her by more than just my words.
I think the fruits of our devotion to St. Joseph and the period of struggle in our marriage and in our family life has now manifested itself in much more a mutual self-sacrifice. And I think that's because we've started to model that through St. Joseph.
St. Joseph became such a part of our family life that we wanted to formally give ourselves to Joseph. We just talked to the kids a little bit about St. Joseph so they understood who he was, and then together as a family just prayed to St. Joseph. They know what St. Joseph means to me. They know what St. Joseph means to Monica. And we're hoping that as they get older, they can understand how St. Joseph's model and life really can apply to them too. What God showed me through St. Joseph is that the battle isn't out there somewhere, but it's in the home. It's within me, it's within my family. From there, I realized, I have to start implementing the way St. Joseph loved Jesus and Mary into my life. And it's really transformed our entire family.
Yeah, beautiful little family. Now back to Colleen.
Thank you, Monsignor. For more than 70 years, World Vision has been working to improve the lives of children, families, and communities across the globe. Joining us now from World Vision USA is Bernie Anderson. Thanks, Bernie, for joining us.
Hi, good morning. Thanks so much. Good to be with you.
We know that World Vision is helping really millions of children around the world, but this all started, as I just said, 70 years ago with one man and one child.
That's right. Yeah, Bob Pierce had this vision, and he had $5 in his pocket, and he was in a position to be able to help one child. And from helping that one child, World Vision now works with 3.5 million children across 100 different countries. And it all started, it was born in the heart and mind of Bob Pierce 70 years ago.
That is so great. And it continues with you can change the world one child at a time.
One child at a time, yeah. And we talk a lot about how we can bring fullness of life to every child that we encounter. Every child that's that lives in extreme poverty. We want to, and if it's just one child, it's one child. We start with that child, one child at a time. We invite people all the time to enter into a sponsorship relationship, even with the child, when the opportunity comes up.
How did you get involved with World Vision?
Wow, great question. I love that question. I was a pastor for 23 years and I served many churches across the country. But I always kind of had this plan with God that if I wasn't going to be a pastor anymore, I would love to serve at World Vision. And when I began to see that it was time for me to not be a pastor anymore, the door and the opportunity opened up for me. And I took the opportunity because I've always been a fan, always partnered with World Vision as a senior pastor at the church, and just love the work that World Vision did. So here I am now, part of the team and helping to do the work that we do.
Tell us more about some of the work that's being done around the world in some of the most dangerous areas in the world too, but some of the work that's being done right now.
Yeah, no, we are, like I said, we operate in roughly 100 different countries. We have this vision of providing clean water to all the places that we operate and that we work by 2030. So right now, World Vision is the largest or the leading non-governmental provider of clean water. About every 10 seconds, someone receives clean water from World Vision. And that's so powerful. I love talking about that. So clean water is such a part of what we do. But we also do healthcare. We provide healthcare. We support, obviously, food insecurity. We do so many things just, again, to help bring fullness of life to every child. Child sponsorship is another major way that we do our work. And in fact, when you help one child at World Vision, when you sponsor one child, 4 more children are impacted, mainly because of the way that we pool the resources together to impact and to lift a single community. So all those, it's $39 a month to support a child, sponsor a child. We pool those resources and it goes to help the entire community, clean water, child safety and protection, economic development, medical care, education, all those things as we pool those resources together and bless that community.
So you can sponsor a child. We're also getting ready for the holidays. We're getting ready for Christmas.
Yes. Love Christmas.
I love the idea right now. People can think about, well, they could also buy a gift for a child, right?
Yes, they can buy a gift for a child, but they can buy a gift for a family member. And they can buy that gift and they can buy a gift for a child that lives in extreme poverty that will help and bless that family, right? So a goat, a chicken, an alpaca, all these things will bless a family in such a powerful way. There are about 250 items that are in the gift catalog that are online, on the online gift catalog. And you can buy something for a family, bless them with that, and it'll be such a blessing to them because there's so many ways that they'll be able to use that resource to lift their family and to bless their family.
I love
absolutely.
Even within your own family, so talk to your own children. Okay, you know what? They probably have no idea how buying 2 chickens or a duck for a family will really help them. So it's opening up their mind to what's going on around the world.
Absolutely. My wife and I did the same thing as we were raising our children and continue to raise our children. We continue to talk to them about what this means. And as we give to World Vision, as we buy things from the gift catalog, we want to help them understand that this brings such help to families that are in extreme poverty. And it's just a teaching moment, an opportunity to teach and to just bring awareness to our own families about the great needs that so many have out there in the world.
I love that, because we can all donate money, but I like really buying something very specific, like a goat or, something on the website. You're getting a lot of support from celebrities too, right? Which is helping.
Yeah, that's really neat. Yeah, they're highlighting some of these items that were created and made, and celebrities like Melissa Joan Hart and Megan Good and Patricia Heaton are all involved with just highlighting some of these items that help develop economically some of the regions where we work. And it helps the women in particular who create these items and all the people who are creating items that are in the gift catalog. So we really appreciate that help and that support, as everyone, it's kind of that Oprah's favorite thing sort of a thing going on. And we're grateful for the boost and the attention that these items get, because it really, really does help a lot.
So if somebody wants to check out the catalog, where do they go?
Yeah, they can go to worldvision.org and they'll find the catalog there. It's easy to get to, but for the catalog, you can go to worldvision.org and find out more about our programs, more about our ministries and how we work and where we work. Absolutely welcome you to visit worldvision.org and buy some chickens, buy an alpaca,
right?
Be a part of buying an alpaca. It really makes a difference.
And as you say, choose joy. It's wonderful. So
choose joy.
Everybody can go early shopping right now. Shop now.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's what I'm hearing. We're supposed to go early shopping, so now's the time.
Exactly. Get it done. Okay, Bernie, thank you so much.
Thank you, Colleen. Take care.
More CFN Live right after this.
This is the story of a boy who didn't talk for a long time. The boy liked things to always be the same. Any changes would scare and upset him. The unknown was an unfriendly place. The boy was very sensitive to lights and sounds. So he built secret hiding places where they couldn't get in. The boy didn't like looking people in the eye. He wasn't trying to be mean, it just made him feel uncomfortable. Sometimes he would flap his arms again and again.
One day I found out I have something called autism. My family got me help. Slowly, I found my voice and learned all the ways I could live with it better.
Early intervention can make a lifetime of difference. Learn the signs at autismspeaks.org.
Colleen, Thanksgiving is already coming.
I know.
I'm going to be cooking.
But I'm having trouble, realizing it's November. I
know, it's here.
Didn't it go?
It's unbelievable.
It's moving very fast. Yes, we're cooking.
You and I are going to do some cooking. And then
You're
also
cooking.
The week of Thanksgiving, November 23rd, is our annual luncheon at the Garden City Hotel. You can support us by going to cfntv.org, see how you can help us out and support our big luncheon this year. Great honorees, great time. I don't have time to tell you all about it, but it's going to be a great luncheon.
But
so
we're happy
thanks
to be back in person, right? Because last year we couldn't.
Finally.
I know.
Finally. It'll be great.
All good things.
Be a good thing.
All righty. Well, we hope you join us again tomorrow right after Mass. I'm Colleen McVeigh.
And I'm Monsignor Jim Vlon. God bless. Thanks for joining us.